Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This is Amonkhet Launch Weekend. As you can imagine, Amonkhet's going to have an impact on a lot of the cards in the market this week, especially for Standard, a little bit into Modern. And this is also the first weekend of actual competitive tournament play with the cards in the new Standard. So a lot's going to change over the course of the weekend. We're going to come back early next week with a special edition of the Market Watch to examine Standard in particular, kind of see what the results of the weekend were. But at least for today, let's jump into the watch as we always do. Now, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find two ways to help support the channel, one of which is the Amazon affiliate store. You'll find most of the singles we talk about today linked in there, as well as many other Magic the Gathering products. Or you can check out our Patreon page. Both are great ways to help us keep doing what we're doing with these videos. But having said that, let's get into the cards. We're going to start off, as we always do, with Standard, with the cards that lost value this week. Now, you're going to see Amonkhet cards here. And for the most part, these are cards that were just a little high coming out of the pre-release time. And when folks weren't paying those prices, especially once packs were getting open, and a lot of players were going to the pre-release, spending time at their game stores this weekend, the prices started to come down. So let's take a look at some of these cards. Coming in at number 5 is Nissa, Steward of Elements, down $1.62 to $15.84. This is a perfect example. I think this is a great card. I think she will see Standard play, if not immediately, at some point down the road. But she was priced a little high coming out of the pre-release, which is very often the case when it comes to Planeswalkers. Coming in at number 4 is Harsh Mentor, down $1.65 to $6.70. Now, I mentioned last week that this one could be a little bit soft because it was a rare, not a mythic. And a lot of players, especially as packs get open, they're going to have an easier time coming across these cards than some of the mythics. So I expected this to take a little bit of a hit. The other thing this card has going against it, at least in the short term, is the fact that I feel like this is a card that's better in Modern than anywhere else. It's going to take a little longer for Modern brews to start happening and take off in big tournaments and stuff like that. So those cards that are more Modern-centric are going to have a slower start. And this is a possible example of that. Coming in number 3 is As Foretold, down $1.78 to $11.78. Had a pretty nice price tag, again, coming out of the pre-release. Now, this card interacts extremely well with Suspend cards, which makes it either maybe a Modern or Commander card. We'll have to kind of wait and see if it can get there in Modern. But again, that's going to take a little bit of time. This will lose some value in the meantime, perhaps. The other place, it could be good, like I said, Commander. But again, Commander players only need one copy, so that's going to soften the value a little bit. Coming in at number 2, Samut, Voice of Dissent, down $2.57 to $3.66. Pretty nice drop this week for this card. Now, it does have Standard potential going forward, whether that's immediately or down the road. So you do want to keep that in mind. But again, I think this is a card that has really caught the attention of Commander players more than anything. And like I mentioned just a moment ago, they only need one copy, so that's going to soften the market value, at least initially for a while. And coming in number 1 is Gideon of the Trials, down $2.92 to $24.65. Well, this was the highest price tag card last week and still is for the set. It's still close to $25. It's a very popular card. I expect to see it this weekend in some of the big tournaments. We'll have to just see how well it does. But in the meantime, it is stabilizing down a little bit as packs are being opened. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. You're going to see some Amonkhet cards here. You're also going to see some cards that support what Amonkhet's trying to do. Coming in number 5 is one of those cards, Always Watching, up 71 cents to $4.58. I'm going to be watching this weekend to see what this does because I feel like this could be a really great card with some exert strategies and maybe a white weenie deck or perhaps a dual or even tricolor aggro deck using this card could be very interesting. So we'll wait and see on this one, but I feel like it has a lot of potential. Coming in number 4, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, up 91 cents to $21. Now, red is definitely bringing the game out of Amonkhet, and I expect to see a lot of red cards being played this weekend. And because of that, there's a lot of speculation that Chandra may find yet another home in the meta. Coming in number 3, Hezeret the Fervent, up $1.72 to $8.80. Now, this is the first of the gods on the list today. This one really feels like it wants to be in an aggressive deck, but I feel like it has potential, maybe even in some other builds, perhaps like a zombie tribal or something like that, where you're still trying to empty your hand quickly. So this is one to watch. I feel like we're definitely going to see some play out of this card, maybe in a couple different builds this weekend. Coming in number 2, another god, Ronos the Indomitable, up 269 to 1684. This one's really captured a lot of players' imaginations because of the size for 3 mana. Granted, you do have to turn it on, but it's not the most difficult thing to turn on. The big question is, will that mana requirement be a little too much in the early game for Standard? We'll have to wait and see. We're going to learn a lot about this card this weekend, but at the very least, this is a big Commander pickup already. And coming in at number 1, the big mover of the week, Glorybringer, up 598 to 1136, and I'll tell you, this card's not messing around. I played with this in a pre-release draft. It won me games, and this raw power I think will easily convert into Standard. Again, this is a card I expect to see a lot of this weekend. Alright, let's move on to Modern. Starting off with the cards that lost value this week. And Modern's a little bit slower right now as a lot of folks are putting their attention on Standard and the new environment. So you're not going to see a lot of big changes. There's a couple noteworthy ones though. What you're going to see here as far as the cards that lost value, however, are just cards that recently spiked that are stabilizing. Coming in number 5, Karn Liberated from New Phyrexia, down $1.47 to $63. Karn had some big spikes over the last couple months, just stabilizing down a little now. Same story for Dark Confidant. This is the Modern Masters 2015 version, down $1.52 to $46.16. Rinse, Wash, and Repeat, Surgical Extraction, down $1.75 to $21.84. Saw a big spike last week, so snapping back a little bit. Number 2, Chalice of the Void. This is the Mirrodin version, down $1.80 to $68. Again, another card that has gone up a lot recently. I mean, even with a decrease, it's still close to $70. And coming in at number 1, Tarmogoyf from Modern Masters 2017, down $2.65 to $85.96. Now, all the big Modern Masters 2017 cards, and the ones I'm thinking off the top of my head, this one, Liliana, Cavern of Souls, Snapcaster Mage, the 5 fetch lands, those all have been doing extremely well. This is the first sign of weakness in any of those cards. It kind of makes sense that it's Tarmogoyf considering the amount of times it has been reprinted. So this has gone down slightly this week, but it's the only one of those that has. So the other ones are still pretty hot, and you're going to see that in just a moment. Alright, let's look at the cards that have gained a value this week in Modern. Coming in at number 5 is Verdict Catacombs from Modern Masters 2017, up $3.76 to $68.03. So pretty nice increase for one of the fetch lands this week. Now this was the biggest mover out of that group of cards, but they all have been moving up at least a little bit over the course of the last few weeks. Number 4, Crucible of Worlds from 10th edition, up $3.76 to $68.03. Now, this is an interesting card to talk about because I have a strong feeling this could show up in Iconic Masters in November. Don't know if it would be a Mythic or a Rare. Perhaps it would be Mythic, but this one's a little risky. It is going up right now due to the fact, in part anyway, that some folks are trying to play with this and the cycle lands to see what kind of benefit that can yield, and that could lead to something down the road. But I do think this is a little bit of a shaky card to pick up at this point for a $65, $70 card. We'll have to wait and see, but Iconic Masters, a lot of people have surmised that you're going to see a lot of big ticket cards. I mean, names like Tarmogoyf and Liliana have been thrown around. Fetch lands have been thrown around. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like we're going to see cards that showed up in Modern Masters 2017, or possibly a lot of the cards from even Eternal Masters, although I would expect some maybe to show back up again if this is truly the new Eternal Masters, which I feel like it probably is. We might see like Force of Will or something like that. But I think for the most part, they're going to try to hit us with some new stuff. Think about the cards that have not been reprinted over the course of the last year or 2 years that really feel like they desperately need a reprint. I'm thinking of cards like Crucible of Worlds. Noble Hierarch is another one. There's a number of those cards that just feel strangely missing from the mass reprints we've been seeing. I feel like those are the ones you may want to steer clear of if they have high price tags over the next few months. I think they're going to try to give us some different things, because truly, if they don't give us some different cards, the incentive to go out there and buy packs of this new set is going to be lessened. They're going to have to show us some new stuff to get us out there. Coming in at number 3 is Maelstrom Pulse, up $1.51 to $49.99. Now, this is the original Modern Masters version. This card's really hot right now in Modern, partially due to the fact that black and green arguably are the strongest colors currently in the format, and this fits into a lot of good places. Number 2, Gideon Jura, both copies. Rise of the Eldrazi up $5.80 to $13, with Modern Masters 2012 going up $5.86 to $11.89. Now, there's obviously some speculation of how Gideon's going to be able to play with the new Gideon, and I don't know if that's going to pan out in Modern. I guess time will tell. However, this is definitely a great pickup for Commander, and I think that's what's really driving the price here. Coming in at number 1, Protean Hulk, up $18.33 to $21.98. Now, if anyone still thought Commander couldn't drive big price increases in the market, well, here's yet another case where they'd be proven wrong. Protean Hulk, of course, became unbanned this week in the world of Commander, and a lot of Commander players ran out to pick up the card, as you can see from the huge spike here. Now, I do expect this to snap back probably quite significantly over the next week or so. So if you were planning on picking it up and you can't find a good price point, I think if you wait a week or two, you'll be able to perhaps get a better price point on this card. So keep an eye on it, but it is a very big week for this card regardless. All right, let's move on to the legacy market, and it's actually a little bit slow this week. You're going to just see, for the most part, normal stabilization. A couple interesting points I'll point out, but cards that lost value this week. Number 5 is Chains of Mephistopheles, down $6.88 to $370.99. Number 4, Jihad from Arabian Nights, down $8.47 to $31.89 this week. Number 3, Armageddon from Unlimited, down $9 to $45. This spiked not too long ago, so it's just stabilizing now. Number 2, Tundra from Unlimited, down $14.50 to $309.50 this week. And number 1, Diamond Valley, down $25.11 to $186. This is down a little bit. It's been spiking rather aggressively, but I feel like it's going to sit around that $200 price point for a little while now. All right, let's move into the cards that gained value this week. Coming in number 5, Brain Geyser from Unlimited, up $10.95 to $45. This is a card that went down last week, just bouncing back this week. Number 4, Tropical Island from Unlimited, up $13.43 to $392.25. Number 3, Thunder Spirits. This is from Legends, up $24.50 to $92.74. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago. If you're in the market for a reserve list card that's actually a very playable card in formats like 93-94 format or even Commander, that this might be a good choice for you. I mean, back when this card was printed, it actually was one of the most powerful creatures printed in that time period of Magic. And it's a card that I think a lot of people have a sentimental connection to who played back in those days. It had a pretty nice spike this week. I do expect maybe a little bit of snapback over the next couple weeks, but I think long term this is another card that has potential to easily cross the $100 mark. Coming in number 2, Jizam Jin, up $30.42 to $518.60. Again, this card just kind of sits around that $500 mark, and it's gone up this week. I expect a little bit of snapback in the next few weeks. Coming in number 1, Gauntlet of Might, up $73 to $225. This has saw a lot of decreases over the last few weeks. My theory is it feels like it was a buyout and it was reintroduced into the market. But a lot of times what happens is that brings a lot of attention on the card, especially when folks see the value dropping rapidly. So I think a lot of people just decided they wanted to pick up the card last week, and that's what we're seeing here. Again, I expect a little bit of a snapback over the next few weeks, but I still feel like this is easily a $200 card once all is said and done, and will continue to climb. Having said that, those are the cards for this week, and I don't know if anyone noticed, but the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale was not on there. Very exciting stuff. We got to talk about different cards. So we'll be back early this coming week to talk about what's going on in the market for Standard, especially after we see this weekend's results. And we'll be back, of course, next Saturday with a regular Market Watch. And hopefully I'll have some packs to open and a lot of other stuff going on the channel this week. So until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.